Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
It is Sunday, May 8th, and tonight's topic is plateaus. What is a plateau? How do we break plateaus? And what's the deal with them anyway? So I'm really excited about this topic because it's something that it's, as we've talked about before, there's benchmarks, there's milestones that we hit as we go through, and plateaus are an amazing way to see your milestones and your benchmarks. So if you give me 5 minutes here at the top of the call, we're going to lay some groundwork, and then we're going to take questions, and we're going to discuss different plateaus you've experienced, different milestones or benchmarks you've experienced, and how do we tell the difference between what's a milestone and a benchmark and what's a plateau? So if you guys have had a plateau experience or a plateau question that you really do not want to get off this call without having answered, put it in the chat now while I'm talking. So when we get to Q&A, those are in there. So as I'm talking, if something resonates, something lands, or you're like, wait, no, I have a question on that, type it into the chat so we make sure to answer it and give you all the time that you need. So let's start with what a plateau is. A plateau is the scale is staying the same. Now, the scale could be staying the same over a week. The scale could be staying the same over a month. The scale could be staying the same over, let's say, 3 months, a quarter, okay? And staying the same could mean lots of different things. Staying the same could mean literally you're at the exact same number. Staying the same could mean you're in like that 2 to 3 pound range. Staying the same could mean you start and end the month at the same place or the quarter, but really in the middle, you were like 5 to 10 pounds up and down, right? I've heard and myself have called all of those things plateaus. But what's the difference between a plateau and maintenance? What's the difference between a plateau you want, that your body is actually getting ready for melting mode, and a plateau that's just inconsistent habits?
Already, when you've already.
Hold on. So we gotta get some muting going on here. Hold on.
You already.
Okay. I think I got everybody. Okay. So yes, there is such a thing as you plateau we want. That's called maintenance.
Maintenance.
A plateau you want is literally what maintenance is. That's all maintenance is. It's when your weight loss has plateaued and you're happy about it. That's all maintenance is. So it's also really.
Can I just add one thing, not just that you want, and it's called maintenance and you're happy about it. I think also a very good distinction is that you respect it. Again, Lily, continue what I'm saying, but we can discuss that later, but.
Okay, so that was just we were jokey there, but we're going to get into that. So let's start with what is a plateau. A plateau really isn't when your weight is going up and down significantly, even if you start and end the month at the same time. A plateau is really you're in the same 2 pound range for a significant period of time. It can even be that you're identically the same weight, which I have seen for about a week. And that could be water retention, it can be sleep, it can be a whole transition of things. But a plateau is where your weight is stagnant, but your behavior is consistent. If your behavior is not consistent, you're not experiencing a plateau. You're just not making progress. If your behavior is consistent, but your weight is staying in that same zone, that's what a plateau is. And that's also what maintenance is. So when we are in the middle of weight loss mode and we wish we were losing weight, but we're plateaued, this is where Alana in 2B Mindset Speak says, we're plateaued in our mindset. Our mind, our vision of what our plate should look like is stuck. Our mind, our vision of how we could be full or satisfied, or how many treats we need in a day, or whether we're even enjoying the treats that we're having, whether we're bite licking and tasting our way through things. These are things that we have to ask, am I plateaued? So everyone across the board, and I did a lot of research coming into this call. I went through some of my favorite graduates from nutritionist school with me, their websites. I went through everything I've learned in my 10 years being a nutritionist, in my 6 years with 2B Mindset, in everything I've seen from my clients and everything I've seen from Alana. And there's 3 ways to break a plateau when you really want to be in weight loss. Number 1 is start with drinking more water before your meal. Before your meal, start with making sure you're really 16 ounces, up it to 24 before your meal, and actually pay attention to when you start getting full. Number 2, add in more vegetables. Add in an extra veggie snack so you go into your meals less hungry and stay full and satisfied and up your total kind of calories, but from vegetables. Also, that's going to help you find the new happy place in your other portions on your plate. And number 3 is check in with your bites, licks, tastes, few chocolate chips here or there, lack of sleep, or chronic stress or salt intake. Those things that affect the scale that we're not really keeping track of. I know when I'm not getting sleep, that's when I'm least paying attention to how much sleep I'm getting, because I'm just so in survival mode. When I'm eating salty food, I don't notice I'm eating salty food. I'm just making super yummy stir fries. And I just maybe got into the habit of having a lot of low sodium soy sauce and having it way more often than it was previously, right? Or you just find this amazing seasoning that happens to be pretty high in salt, and all of a sudden you become obsessed with it and you're just using it all the time on all your veggies. And all of a sudden you feel like you hit a plateau. Things like that, you just want to check in with and say, hey, is something here that I'm being consistent with maybe putting me in a plateau? So what's the difference then between maintenance and just being in a plateau? Maintenance is where you are so happy with your consistent lifestyle, and you are so happy with that 2 to 3 pound zone that you're in, that you don't stress about the scale, you don't stress about what you're eating, your habits are very routine, you're not treating every day, but every treat is just so good, you're having so much fun, you're enjoying everything you're eating. That's your final plateau. It's called maintenance. And even maintenance, sometimes we're in that 10-pound zone of maintenance, and sometimes we're in that really happy plateau of maintenance where we're really staying in that 2 to 3 pound range, and we're so happy and satisfied and really living the dream of not being worried or thinking or engaged in food anymore. Instead, we've moved on and we're working and growing in other areas of our life. So if you've called something a plateau that's not a plateau, raise your hand. If you've called something a plateau that's not a plateau. Okay. If you've had a plateau and you thought the answer is, I have to be hungry, I have to eat less, raise your hand, right? Okay, if you've added more water, but then not actually listen to your hunger, trying to break a plateau, raise your hand, and then you just end up overstuffed, bloated, and the weight actually goes up, right? Maybe you've added in more vegetables to try to break a plateau, but then you didn't listen to your hunger to adjust for anything else. One of the best tips I've ever heard is leave 3 bites on your plate when you're trying to break a plateau. Just 3 bites. Just practice listening enough to how hungry you are to leave 3 bites on your plate. And that's a great training to be like, oh, am I just finishing what I'm eating because I'm used to visually taking this munch? And that's when Alana talks about the plateau really being up here in our eyes. And just leaving 3 bites is a great, easy way to not have to be mindful through every single bite, but to start to check in with, am I still hungry? Now that's all the teaching and lecturing that I have that I feel like is of value. I'm going to break these down in the posts coming this week, but there is so much that we put on this word plateau, so much baggage. And if we could just release some of that tonight, I know we'll all leave lighter, physically, emotionally, mentally. So let's get it started. I release okay, that if I start and end the month in the same place, but I have averaged like a bigger than 6 pound difference, I am not in a plateau. I'm also probably not maintaining, I'm just in a bit of an inconsistent space. Okay, I'm just being a little inconsistent. Maybe there's a holiday, maybe there are a lot of events, maybe I traveled, maybe something happened, but I'm not being consistent. Okay, anybody have a story about a plateau they want to release or need help releasing? You have a story that you don't know how to break plateaus, or you're in a plateau and really it's just not worth it anymore to you. You want to be out of this plateau. Who has
I think it's also before everyone kind of gives their
Yes.
story, it's important to also go back to, are you doing all 4 bunnies? Sorry, 2 bunnies, all 4 Ikarim, the way you did when you got started? Meaning, when you had that success, are you doing now water, veggies, weighing, and your tracker, just like, and I'm not saying, are you tracking? Are you filling out your tracker just as well as you were when you had that big success? Because that's the first question before you then question your plateau.
Sure. And then
Now, go
absolutely.
for it, whoever wanted to.
Absolutely. So I saw some people raising their hands, but I missed it. Can you do it again? Vida, go for it.
I think that the word plateau to me is a slump. And sometimes if the scale doesn't move in the direction you want it to go, then that kind of works on your mind and makes you feel like you're in a slump and like a why bother attitude and on and on. But if, that's a very big word, if you can get yourself out of yourself, then it means that you can try to pull yourself out of the slump and be forgiving of whatever the cause could be and to move on, because you don't want, none of us wants to stay in a slump.
I love that. I love that slump. Who feels like a plateau feels like a slump, right? Anybody's ever felt like a plateau could feel like a slump? I love that. So if we can turn our slump, like Evita was saying, into an opportunity for forgiveness and compassion, and then be like, oh, I just need more energy. I'm feeling slumped. I'm not actually plateaued. I'm just actually feeling slumped. Maybe my eating has gotten like very routine, and so I'm treating more because my food is boring. Maybe I traveled a lot. Maybe I'm not sleeping enough. All these things that made me feel like I'm in a slump. I think that's such a good word, and that was such a good share. Thank you so much. Sorrel, I see your hand is raised. You're still muted. Give yourself a sec.
Yeah.
There you go.
So about January time, I was maybe losing like 2 pounds a month, but honestly, with the amount of weight left to lose, I just didn't really understand and felt quite frustrated. And, you know, as Alana always says, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So for me, when I heard about the diet bet, even though it's not, you know, everybody's strategy, or for me, it was like, what, not even just like that it's a diet bet, just making a change. And honestly, this is the biggest part, immersing myself in more content, in more to be content, was just like a game changer for me. And it's not because I wasn't even focusing on the 4% or the money. It just making some kinds of mental switch in which you add something as opposed to feeling like you need to deprive yourself and take something away can just shake up the system.
I think that's absolutely true. And that's true whether it's your fitness that you change and you pick a new workout program that gets you excited, or it's, you know, going in BODI or going to her diabetic, or going to her podcast where she puts her recordings, or listening to old coaching calls that we've done in the group. Doesn't really matter what you choose, but I think you're absolutely right. A slump or feeling frustration, who also, I totally associate plateau with frustration. Anybody else, right? Plateau, frustration. And when are we frustrated? We're frustrated when we're not growing. So if you immerse yourself, like Sorrel's saying, in more content, you start to feel like your mindset's growing, and eventually that creates momentum on the scale too.
Can I add something to that, and like ask Sorrel just something like a question about that? Because the immersing yourself, and we've spoke about that, like in content, that keeps you kind of like in the game. How would you say, if you're okay answering it, would immersing yourself in the content, then how did that roll over? Because just immersing yourself in content, I think, as we all know, that doesn't necessarily change the scale. It obviously had to roll over then into different, like you said, nothing changes, you know, if nothing changes, nothing changes. What little things did you then notice in terms of behaviors, or played it, let's say, or times, or this? How did that roll over then into action that you felt then made that change, instead of losing 2 pounds the previous month to then losing 8 pounds the next month?
Right. So good question. So, but for me, it was around about the time that I started diet that I decided that I was always very afraid of myself in the kitchen. Like, I was nervous when I was preparing foods, if I'd eat mindlessly. So round about the time when I was listening to Ilana's calls every Sunday, I decided whenever I'm in the kitchen, I'm going to listen to 2P content. Like, that was my thing. And in other words, I felt myself like having that kind of chizuk and support while I was in the kitchen. And that was just like a behavior. So you change the script. I was changing the script of, I'm in a place where I'm weak and I'm challenged, to I'm in the kitchen, and wherever you're getting your 2B content, or it doesn't even need to be 2B content, like a podcast, something empowering me, then I was able to trust myself in the kitchen, not take the bites, and come at it feeling empowered.
I love that.
I
love all the connections. The feeling empowered, and Ilana always says, you got to believe it. You got to say, I want to lose weight. I can lose weight. I am losing weight. My body wants to lose weight. Like, you have to be in that situation. Then what you don't even realize, I don't even know if you actually noticed that you even said it, that then led to not taking licks, bites, and tastes, which sometimes we don't realize. If we are, let's say, in a plateau, we're not losing at the speed that we want to lose in. It doesn't mean that's always the answer, but sometimes those things we don't necessarily write down, and not because a spoonful of soup after making it is making or breaking the weight loss. It's all that awareness. And I think that's that's a huge empowering.
Just one thing I would say is that when it used to be very confusing, there's the difference between like melting modes and weight loss modes. And for me, what clicked, obviously, like the pounds, like I lost 25 pounds in 3 months, like the last 3 months, which was very different than the previous 3 months. But what was really different for me, melting modes, was like I was kind of like excited and feeling great about like the idea of saying, all these mantras, right? Like saying no to something means saying yes to something else. What do I want to see tomorrow? Who do I want to be tomorrow? Like that just flipped things for me.
Amazing. I love that. I love that saying no means saying yes to something else. I think that is such an empowering thing. If you feel like you're slipping into deprivation, it's not deprivation, it's a choice, and you're saying yes to something else.
I love that. And I think you hit on a lot of things we said at the beginning of the call too, that it really comes down to the simple things that we're doing. And like Yoni said, the 2 bunnies, and that all of it is really there. It's just have we progressed in our mindset and in our awareness to be ready for the next level. And then we can keep going. Beth, you had something to share.
I was in a plateau for a long time. Definitely more than a month. And Ilana talks about a plateau going up 0.1, going down 0.2, going up 0.1. I was not even budging 0.1. My scale was exactly the same for days and days and days and days at a time. And it's frustrating, as as everything. But for me, what I ended up doing was, first of all, I focused more on my water, where I was getting usually 3 liters. I made sure to get at least 3, if not 4. And then I went back and I looked, like I have my regular breakfast. I make my overnight oats and then I have them ready and waiting for me every day. But, you know, there's a little bit of almond butter and there's a little bit of cocoa powder and a little bit of, whatever it is, you know, all the things that just the accessories that they work when you're in weight loss mode, but when you're in maintenance mode, or if you're looking to just kind of break that plateau, all those little accessories, none of which individually is terrible, but all of them put together day after day after day. And I kind of started tweaking that and focusing on the water, and all of a sudden the scale budged. And then Pesach happened, and so now we're working again. But just consistency and persistency, and not giving up. But it gets hard when, you know, you're used to the scale dropping in 0.7, 2 point, I'm talking pounds, 2 point something increments, and all of a sudden, not at all for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But
and that's really, I guess you hit slump and you hit frustration, right? You hit both of them, but you got out of it by empowering yourself to make a change. And that's really always how we get out of a plateau, is either choosing to see it as like the greatest blessing, actually love everything about my life and I love this weight and I'm good. Or, you know what, there's something here. There's something I'm not being aware of, whether it's my accessories or it's what I'm eating while I'm cooking, or the things that we like to say shouldn't count. They shouldn't count.
it's also like the self-talk, where because I've lost a lot of weight and maybe this is just the weight my body wants to be at, you know, and maybe I'm not meant to lose more than this. And this is, I should just be thankful that I'm here and there isn't more. And the truth of the matter is, I'm not guided just by the number on the scale, and I'm happy. If this is where I stayed, I would be very happy with this. But to not just kind of shrug your shoulders and give up and say, well, that's all my body's capable of, and so I'm not going to do any, you know, it's not worth putting in the effort. But I will tell you, I'm talking to Lily later, and this is one of the things. So Pesach, after I went up, and I went up to the number where I was stuck for such a long time. And my first thought was, oh my God, I can't get stuck here again. I can't do this again. But I didn't, fortunately, but like the stories we tell ourselves are very powerful, for better or worse.
And that's where what Sorrel said about starting to put more content in, can like making sure that you have a coach, or talking to your coach, or engaged in your group, or whatever it is, that you shift that fear. 2 notes that you reminded me of that I have here in front of me for today's call is one thing that is really interesting scientifically about a plateau is that when you have dropped 25, 35 pounds over a short period of time, your body may go into a short-term plateau. And depending on your metabolism, this could be for a little bit, okay? What does that mean? That means your body is adjusting to the new amount of hunger that you have at this current weight versus the amount of appetite you used to have to support the old weight. And it's that mind-body shift, body dysmorphia, whatever you want to call it, where you see yourself one way, or you see your plate one way, but your stomach is starting to tell you a different story. And this is something I experienced many times in my weight loss, and it adds into Jen's question of, does your weight loss slow as you get closer to your goal weight? And Alana always says, usually it speeds up as you get closer to your goal weight. If you're in melting mode and you just really have what works for you, and you're in alignment with what that weight looks like for you. But if you've dropped a lot of weight and you're having a hard time shifting, I remember with salmon, I just thought a piece of salmon had to look like a certain size piece of salmon, or it couldn't be satisfying. And at a certain weight, my body just was getting gassy, was getting bloated, was not feeling normal after this size dinner that had helped me lose all the weight. And it was because my body had different needs in its current weight zone than it did even while I was losing weight more quickly. And so sometimes when we have a plateau, it's the body-mind connection needs to get in sync. And so by adding more water first or more veggies and starting with the vegetables at your meal, it's really, really helpful. And it really does become about listening to our body, but it's hard because we have very clear pictures of what we're used to eating. And that's why Alana says that she eats the same volume of food at 1:15 as she did at 2:15. Just a lot more of that volume is water now, and then vegetables, and then the rest of the food that's appropriate to keep her body nourished and fueled and going at her current weight. And it really does take a little bit of time for some people to make that adjustment. And for some people, it doesn't take any time. And it depends on a lot of factors, right? One of those things is sleep and how tired you are and your workouts, which is why changing those things up can be super helpful.
I
Okay.
think, Lily, can I just add to that, just because I think it's important. Not everybody, I think, when they do get closer to their goal weight, this does weight loss necessarily speed up. Alana does speak. You do have to also realize your rhythm, and Jen had brought this up also in terms of the speed at which you lose weight. You're looking for the downward trend, okay? And you're still looking for, like Alana always says, you have to learn to appreciate. If you look at the beginning of the month and the end of the month, yes, maybe at some point during the month you were down 5, but if even at the end of the month you're down net 3, you're still down, okay? And we all do work in, in different ways. And when she talks about the average weight loss, 1 to 3 pounds or this or whatever, there is acquiring that appreciation for also who you are. And I think one of the biggest things that we can scare ourselves with when we say we think we're stuck at a plateau is only giving it a week. And we don't very often then look back at our tracker and be like, oh, well, 2 weeks ago, I actually lost half a pound. And now it's just that next bracket. So I think we're so quick sometimes to, yes, call something a plateau when there are so many things, even as women. And I know so many people say to me, but I don't get my period because I'm on the Mirena. Women work in cycles. Our body still does have cycles, even if you're not getting your period, or even if you're in a perimenopause for 10 years. You have to. I have one client that the week before her period and the week of ovulation goes up. And she's like, well, then I only have 2 weeks left of the month that I can lose. Okay, it's 2 out of 4. And if you're then net down over the month, and that you just have to really start learning and not freak yourself out, if that makes sense.
And remember that weight loss is not our hobby anymore, guys. Living a healthy lifestyle and developing other hobbies is our hobby. So if it takes a little longer to lose weight, you get to not have to re-lose it again and again and again and again and again. If you're feeling like weight loss and 2B mindset has become your hobby, pick a workout program, start an art class, take swimming lessons like Sorel is, move to a new hobby, and let this just be how you eat and how you look at food. And remember, 2B mindset is fun, but not a hobby. Jen, go for it.
Okay, hi everybody. So first of all, so my body does lose weight very, very slowly, and I've been working on my patience, as Ayala knows. I've been working hard on that. So first of all, success was I did not lose. I stayed the same from Friday to Sunday for Shabbos, which is huge, huge, huge for me. And I'm beyond thrilled. And I learned
wait, time out. You also lost weight over Pesach. I'm just putting that out.
Yes. Okay. Yes, to come out over Pesach, yes, yes. So, I've been and I sat on my couch. I've been also immersing myself, as Sorel said, in the content. I listened to old podcasts and I think it's on Spotify of Alana's. I've been immersing myself, and you've said many times it makes a huge difference to be in that mindset. Makes a big difference. But right. So the plateau, I'm not calling it, that's what I was asking about, as you get closer to goal, what it should look like. And I guess for everybody's body, has to look different. But I sat with my tracker on Shabbos and I was looking through where I literally have tabs of my weight loss days, and to notice the patterns. And I've also been, I want to add in changing things having chickpeas in my salad instead of the same, literally this. I probably laughed at my tracker because it's the exact same tracker for weeks upon weeks. I could just literally copy and paste it, but I would write everything down. and I like put tons of things in my salad. So I've started adding things more like celery or other things, snap peas, just to like little tweaks or little changes to, and I think that, I mean, the fact that in this Shabbos also like Shabbos, I was very mindful, literally only like a taste of challah. And I don't know if that was the big difference, but, to maintain over Shabbos was huge. So I know I'm like throwing a lot out there, but that's,
So there were
Doesn't
so many
matter.
amazing things that you said that go right back to the beginning of the call. And that really, if you want to break a plateau, you check in with your tracker, your accessories, like Beth said, you immerse yourself in more content and get yourself in a more positive space, like Sir Alan Vita said. And you also, when it comes to the last 10 pounds, as somebody who hit my last 10 pounds after trying to hit it for like 4 months and then hitting it in 3 weeks, when I finally hit it, it was 3 weeks. And it was really just getting out of my own way. I knew all the things that had to line up to hit it and to be there and to like shift my lifestyle over. But it's hard to let go of old habits sometimes. Like
even, I think for myself, like even it's hard. I get home late to always, but like having dinner, I know if I have dinner earlier, it makes a difference. So for example, one night I work until 7:45. I started bringing a salad with me. I felt bad. I have like this kid client. I'm like, do you mind if I eat while and I said to mom, it was like 5 o'clock. Do you mind if I eat now? And they're like, it's dinner time. So like, I'm like, okay, thank you. Like, I appreciate that you don't care. So like, like usually be like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't eat in front of clients, whatever. But no, but if they don't care, then which is great. So like little shifts, yeah, they make a big difference. And I started doing, I started doing the 80-day obsession. Bar was not for me, but if it's for other people, I know you guys love it, but you have to find what you love. So I'm enjoying 80-day
Yeah.
obsession. I think it's great for me. I'm really enjoying it.
I loved 80 Day, it was great, but just hear what you said, like you knew that you needed to get an earlier dinner, but it just took time to figure out how to make it happen. And to me, that's really what those last 10 pounds are about. It's just like coming to terms with what are some real lifestyle changes that I haven't been willing to make, that just, whether it's sleep. I can't tell you how many clients, just don't get enough sleep, myself included. Sometimes if I'm 6 pounds above, sometimes it might just be that I'm in a season of life where I'm not getting as much sleep as I need to be in that lower bracket. And that's okay, as long as I don't get on my own case and call myself in a plateau or that I'm failing and maintaining. I'm not, I'm just in a season where I'm not getting ideal amount of sleep for that weight zone. And it's not always the same to maintain something as it is to achieve it. And that is something that's nice about a plateau. If anybody's ever been in a plateau and you see that, like, also sometimes you'll overtreat, but it doesn't show up on the scale. And then you'll have like a day where you eat significantly less. That also doesn't shift it. When your body is in that like kind of zone where it feels very comfortable, that your calorie intake is a good match for your body and the volume you're eating is a good match for your body and your exercise is a good match for your body has a lot more wiggle room than you give it credit for, as long as you don't test it. As long as it's, like, oh, I didn't get good sleep that day, or I had too much salt that day. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge shift. And that's the beauty of a plateau when you're looking at it as maintenance and not as a plateau anymore. So,
But even like I learned, so I'll say I also learned from Pesach, like I love, like another thing I knows, I love the peanut butter breakfast pie. Like that's like my go-to, and I enjoy it. But it's not working for me every morning anymore. And so over Pesach, I was having berries and some walnuts and Greek yogurt. And so I have that some days. And I think that has also made a difference. So my daughter is enjoying my peanut butter breakfast pies.
what you just
what-
said is
yeah.
key. Okay. What you just said is key. Is we have a story that we tell ourselves, but this always used to work for me to lose weight. And sometimes we do have to shift a recipe, and a recipe that used to work 7 days a week, maybe is now for the weekends, things like that. And that's really, really okay. Someone said the banana mug cake stopped working for her at a certain point, and they might work again in maintenance. Just because they stop working in weight loss doesn't mean they won't work in maintenance. So
I think I think Alana even talks about the banana mug cakes not necessarily being the best for weight loss. I think she I forgot, I think on video, she says that I think over time she's noticed that that's not the best.
Yeah, she saves them.
Right. Or tweak them, or some people, maybe they weren't having enough protein with it, or again, sometimes things need to be changed, or maybe it depends on which time of day you have it, and save it for your, let's say, FFC with lunch sometimes if you want to if you want dessert. But one thing that I want to say, like Lily also, like when Jen was bringing up a lot of that stuff, a lot of those tweaks or changes, or like Terrell was saying also in terms of, I think the word that really, really fits here is letting yourself get curious, you know, instead of getting frustrated, and getting rid. I think something that I know I've done it, I don't know if any of you can relate, is getting rid of the idea of, well, it's not fair. You know, it's not fair. Like you said, Lily, that connects with, well, it used to work, or it should work, or it works for that person. You got to kind of release that. Like Jen, you were able to switch from the PB pie to yogurt and berries because you weren't like, well, it's not fair that does. Like, get curious, open yourself up to other things. We have a world of wonderful, delicious foods available to us. It's not that it's not fair. It's not that it's not fair if you have that you need to have an earlier dinner. You got curious, which also means that if it ever comes up that during the week something else happens and you do have a later dinner, that's also okay.
Yep. Who else had a story? Because okay, I just want everyone to know we're at 41. So we're gonna, anybody who needs to leave, you can go. I'm gonna let it go for another 5 minutes. I want to get one more person's story in, and then I had something to just end with and wrap up. So Daria, did you have something you wanted to share? Michal, Sarah, anybody else? Charlotte, I love your shares. You always have so much great stuff. If you want to come on. Daria, I know you're in the car. How you doing? Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Okay. Definitely needs
Sarah, when are you coming back to Israel?
In the summer. So that's when I'm really gonna need all the support. But yes, after 4 years of being abroad, well, back in England.
Yes. Okay, Michal, you had something quick you wanted to share about a plateau?
I mean, everyone sort of said it. Sorry, guys,
No.
Corona brain. Everyone, everyone says basically, but you know, I've probably been at a plateau for about 3 months. But it's not a real plateau. Now it's a real plateau. But again, I had to change things up. You know, I switched from, you know, muffin and a yogurt back to oatmeal and yogurt to shake mug and yogurt and oatmeal. And then I had to go back to my old lunch because any other lunch didn't necessarily work for me. So I go back to my 2 eggs, pizza, and salad. And it's so interesting because, you know, you get to that weight and you're like, okay, it should just come off easily. I should just go into weight loss. Cause it's like, you've gotten down all this. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, why is this 10 pounds taking so long? Why am I going up and down, up and down? I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm doing it, but it's playing with that food because my body got to that point where I need a little more protein than FFC. My body's got used to a certain amount of vegetables. So now I need to even add more vegetables, right? My body's gotten used to a certain amount of water. So when I don't have that amount of water, it starts craving that water. So it's all these little things that are causing that plateau to just continue. And I look at a plateau where I'm literally 3 pounds up or 3 pounds down in that same, you know, like 5 pound ratio of what I'm trying to get to. And that's how I look at a plateau. And it's got nothing necessary to do with working out or anything. It was just really interesting to look at my trackers and be like, okay, what is working? What isn't working? What used to work that doesn't work? And I played with it. I played with the tracker until things started to move the way I wanted it to, and still playing with it because that's how it works.
Absolutely. And one last thing then, if anybody didn't put in the chat, if you have anything else you want to add, but
one thing, just for the one thing that I was just saying in terms of that maintenance and plateau, sometimes also it just deserves respect and not the frustration. You know, like you said, sometimes you've lost a lot of weight, then you get stuck. You first have to question yourself, am I doing things differently? But there's also nothing wrong, I believe, in also respecting and actually enjoying what we're calling a plateau. Like Lily said, might really be maintenance. I don't know about you, but until 2B, I didn't do maintenance. I did weight loss or weight gain. So celebrating the fact that yes, there have been times over the last 3.5 years that maybe I knew, okay, my body really can go down more and I really want to. But for 3.5 years since my son's bar mitzvah 3.5 years ago, I'm in the same 6-pound range. Never in my life could I have ever said that was even possible. And there's just showing myself that respect that, okay, and then when I do want to, when I really, really do, like Lily said, you know, accept that and really want to make those tweaks and changes and not consider, oh, it's not fair to not have a treat every day, you know, is like just being, you know, accepting what I really might want to do if I really, really do want it, what I am going to say yes to instead of what I'm saying no to. But respect it, respect where your body has brought you, and it makes it so much easier then to be ready for that next step.
So beautifully said. What I want to end with is when I'm pushed to a plateau, it's really a push to grow. A plateau is really an invitation to grow and more self-awareness. What can happen is, I know for me, I can focus on my weakness. Well, maybe I'm not such a consistent tracker. You know, it must be my water. Oh, you know, I get on the scale 4 days a week. Or, you know, I'm veggies most of the time. Instead of working on your strengths, your strength may be that you're amazing at water. Maybe you're not the best tracker. Maybe you're veggies most always, but your water could use some work. I want you guys to just think about for a minute, which bunny is your number one strength? Because very often we break our plateaus and we grow from leaning into our strengths, from being grateful to how much stronger we've become on the journey, instead of looking at the one bunny that we're still struggling with. And then from that place of strength, we can look at whatever is a little bit weak and we can ask ourselves, why do we feel like this is so scary? It's so scary to track with detail for a few weeks. Like, what's so scary about that? Is it scarier to track with detail, even if you're going to see things maybe you don't like, and maybe you're going to see more bites, licks, and tastes than you really want to acknowledge? Maybe you're going to, you know, have to eat more raw vegetables than, like, you're not obsessed with carrots, and maybe you're going to take a little effort to find the right dip. Maybe you're really going to have to drink also when you're not actually thinking about drinking. Like, you're going to have to actually keep your water bottle with you and be drinking even when you're not thirsty yet. Whatever it is that really scarier than never getting to your goal? Is that scarier than not breaking the plateau? Is that scarier than, you know, 10 years from now being like, well, you know, I always really wanted to lose those last 5 pounds, but I was scared of tracking for 3 weeks, and I was scared of getting that extra liter of water in. Like, I just didn't make myself do it for this short period of time to see what it would really feel like, how hard it would really be to overcome that challenge, to strengthen that weakness. But when we look at the weakness, when we are in a plateau and we get so frustrated and we're like, well, it's because I'm not a good tracker. It's because I'm not drinking enough water. It's because of whatever bunny is not your strength. Remember that you're really going to overcome that from leaning into your strengths and being so proud of how far you've come in the areas that you've really been successful. And that's what's going to give you the strength to be like, I overcame this. Of course, that was scary too. I can do this too. And for me, when I changed my mindset about looking at plateaus like that, like, there's something that's not working in my life, whether it's my sleep, whether it's anything, you know, be like, okay, I'm scared of what it would take for me to get more sleep. Like, I don't even know what it would take for me to get more sleep. Or I don't know what it would take for me to be satisfied with that size piece of salmon, or for me to eat more salmon if you need to eat more and you've been under eating, or to eat more vegetables. Like, oh my gosh, my stomach would just explode. Whatever it is you're telling yourself. Is that really scarier than taking it slowly, being curious, and just giving yourself the gift of what you truly want? So that's what I wanted to end with tonight. And thank you guys so much for investing in yourselves this time, and for being a partner with us in this journey and partner with each other. I'm going to set aside a little challenge for this week. I put it in my bod group a week ago, and I was just not in a place to do it, but I highly recommend pick a Alana video, a podcast, something to listen to every day this week, and start to immerse yourself. Start to do something, and then reach out to somebody on this call. Look who's on the call. Look who shows up like you show up. And reach out to one person here and say, hey, do you want to be accountable to me with just one thing for 1 week? Would you be my accountability buddy for this one thing that I'm a little weak in? I'd like to be better at it just for this 1 week. And if you can't find anybody and you want to talk, then please reach out to your coach. But these are your people. The people who show up to the calls, those are your people. If you show up, you're looking for other people who show up just like you do. Have an amazing night, guys. And thank you all for showing up.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you, Lily. And everyone.
And everybody.
Yes, thank you all.